My name is Katie Jeffcoat. I am a podcast host, happiness consultant, and creator of Intentional Margins. I can't wait to dig into this conversation with Conversations with Pearl.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here. Once you leave the clouds, you're under 80. Funny how there ain't no rain or clear. Why'd it take so long to leave you in the rearview mirror? Nobody gonna steal my sunshine or turn my blue sky gray. All I know is at the end of the day, wildflowers grow when there ain't no shade.
Hey everybody, it's Pearl again, and we are back for another Conversations with Pearl podcast. And today is so exciting, as they always are. But our next guest has been the talk of our Shira League on Sunday evenings. We're always saying, "What's Katie talking about this week?" So I'm excited that you guys get to meet Katie and hear all the buzz that's happening. But Katie Jeffcoat is a community curator, speaker, and author. She supports ambitious women who move from feeling hectic to harmonious because she fundamentally believes we deserve to make time for our priorities. Doesn't that sound about right, ladies? We deserve to live a life with harmony, and it's within control of what we create. You can find her in the Intentional Margins membership community, which she calls the coziest virtual coffee shop on Facebook. And we're going to share more with how you can connect with her later, but I'm excited. Welcome, Katie, to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get started. You literally are the talk of our Shira League. We meet on Sunday evenings at 8. It's a community of women. It's a private group that we get together. And every Sunday, Jacqueline, who's in our group, she's listening. Hi, Jacqueline. Katie is always on the topic. What did Katie say this week? You are such a gem for everybody. And I just love that they've connected with you and through our connections. And I think it's just awesome. So I want to just dive right into it. Just tell everybody a little bit about yourself to get started. And we're going to start with some fun conversations today.
I can't wait. Let's dig in. I'm a podcast host as well. I host a daily podcast, 2-3-ish minutes a day on happiness. It's called Everyday Happiness, Finding Harmony and Bliss. And really, we talk about happiness science, my concept, intentional margins, finding the balance between the to-dos and the priorities, and just musings about life in 3 minutes or less.
I think that's awesome. And that's my big jam is we both know Kari. So if Kari's listening, we'll shout out to her. But Kari and I are going, harmony, because we talk about balance. I mean, how can your life truly be in balance, right? I mean, so those ladies are listening. You're probably on the way right now, taking the kids to school or got to sit home and make dinner, or you're at work and you're like, I got to finish this project, but I need to get home. You know, there's never balance. But if you can find those musical notes to make that harmonious lifestyle, is so imperative to do that, because there's not a perfect life. There's not a perfect wife. There's not a perfect husband. There's never going to be perfect kids, right? But if we can teach our family and even those that we lead how to live with harmony, life can be so much more beautiful. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And the thing is that if you look at like the yin and the yang, they are in harmony. The minute you pull those two apart, they're completely out of balance. So whether that's home life and work life, or, you know, self-care and caring for others, like whatever your two things are, they're never in harmony if they're pulled apart. And the other thing that's so interesting is that it's never 50-50. And I think sometimes we think balance has to be equal, like the scales of justice. I'm a recovering trial attorney. I think about this stuff all of the time, and the scales of justice are equal, but that's not what balance is. You can be busy and be balanced. I really believe balance is less about what you do and more about how you feel.
I love that.
I think you can feel balanced while you're busy. If you're living in your priorities in this season, seasons change, kids grow up, It could be baseball season, or you're launching a book and you're working on stuff. It could be like, I'm thinking baseball season, like for the kids, right? Like they're really busy, or you have something going on, or, it's a really busy time. Maybe it's summer and that's a different season. It's seasons. And I think that's what's so exciting about balance and being busy and balanced, because it's just the way that we feel. And when we live in our priorities, we will feel balanced. We can't help ourselves.
Yeah, I love that you share it in the seasons aspect, because you're so right. Like my kids are now grown. So we're in that season of, kind of empty nester, one's living back at home because rent is so crazy right now. So it's like, just come home. It's totally fine. We have rules. It's not like before. There's different kind of rules, right? And then we have another one graduating college in May, who he's coming out with awesome opportunities, but he's going to have those few months where, you've got to get that financial thing going in order to find your own place to live, so we're in a new season in our life, right? So it's totally a different kind of balance. I love that you share that. And, I share with my clients that I coach, the women, I'm like, listen, let me give you a great example. I went to Vegas in December. Is my life in balance? No, it wasn't balanced completely, because I was there, family's here, but I felt harmony because I had everything under control, and I was able to say, okay, everybody's got what they need to do. I got what I need to do. So my musical notes were great, right? So I love the seasons too, because you're right. We do go through seasons, whether personally or professionally or with our families. So that's such a powerful, I love that you put that. So I want to ask you, let's go back to when you were younger, right? So I want to go back to, what was your life like growing up, and how did this path of becoming the person you are today, the podcasting, how did that all evolve for you?
Wow. That is a big question. So many roads this could go down in this web, but I will try to keep it short and simple and sweet and lock this up. So I grew up in a small town of 2,006 people in the middle of a cornfield in Minnesota. I knew that wasn't the life that I wanted, but I didn't know how to get out. So at 7 years old, I thought I can either be a doctor or a lawyer. And I didn't like to touch people, and I was like scared of blood. So I thought I should be a lawyer. And I was 7, and I was like, and I decided this. I mean, I remember the day. And so I put all of my eggs in that basket. It's the only thing I ever did. It was very fight or flight for a very long time, doing everything I could to get to law school. I graduated high school. I graduated college super fast. I knew I just wanted to get to law school. Got to law school, passed law school, found a boyfriend who was stationed in the Air Force, moved to DC, and I followed him, not knowing what the heck I would do, but knew that I was going to be a lawyer and I was going to make my own way and really get out of what I knew wasn't going to be right for me long term. So I passed the bar, practiced law in Washington, DC, where we live, for 10-ish years, had my first kid, blew it all up, and decided I don't want to do that anymore for all the reasons you can imagine, and all the reasons that your listeners can imagine, right? Harmony and balance and overworked, and knowing that how do you do this in real life? Blew it all up, stayed at home, went through a pattern of, being at home, still not being fulfilled, raising babies wasn't enough, decided down the entrepreneurial track, which I've always kind of been entrepreneurial. I've done little things throughout my life in different aspects, and really knew that I wanted to settle on what made me feel good. And that happened to be happiness. So you can create happiness in ways like you either have natural happiness or synthetic happiness. And what I realized through my research, because I'm a lawyer, you have to prove it to me. You can't just tell me that saying gratitude is going to make you happy and that would be enough for me. It would never work. And I knew I wasn't alone. And there were other people that were like, okay, prove it to me and maybe I'll do it too. Well, I realized growing up, I had created and manufactured all of this synthetic happiness, all of this, the glass is half full, to cope with knowing I was working towards something different, all of this fight or flight that you talk about all the time, right? So it landed me here. And now I have 2 kids, We still live in the DC area, and I consult with companies about belonging and happiness and personal development. I have this podcast, which I am obsessed about. I think it's so much fun. It keeps me in check, makes me a little less snarky because, I still was trained as a lawyer. And so there can be those like times where I've got to watch myself. And it just has been such a good avenue to explore. And I love science. So it seemed perfect.
I love that you were like, I got to prove it to me, right? Show it to me. I don't even know what the movie was, but last night my husband and I were watching this old movie with George Clooney in it, and he went around firing people. I don't remember the name of it. I came in the middle of it. And the character was asking him, talking to him about love. Like, well, don't you want to be married? He goes, why? Tell me why it's important. Like, why should I look at that? Why should I be married? What's so great about it, right? It was so cool to hear him ask those questions. So I love what you said, like, prove it to me. Often, like you said, we have this synthetic happiness, right? But what is real happiness? And, talking about, when I coach women on self-care, yeah, I take a bath. Well, that's great. But does it really make you happy? It makes you clean, but just taking a bath, does it really make you happy? And at such a young age, at 7 years old, I want to do this. And then realize, wow, the goal really was something bigger, but that was the means to get me there, And I think it's so true. Your story reminds me of mine where, I worked so much as a mortgage broker. I'm from the Virginia, DC area as well. And so I worked for a great company there. So if they're listening, hello, Preferred. But I found myself so busy as that loan officer that I'd come home. It's like, was I really happy? And so when we had the opportunity to come to Florida, I was going to be the stay-at-home mom. I thought that was going to be what I wanted to do, right? And then, like you said, that synthetic happiness, it was great, but I wasn't fulfilled, right? And I realized after almost 10 years of being here, I wasn't fulfilled. My cup wasn't being full. And I took a course, and at the end of the course, we had to do our I am statement. And I still didn't know who I was after a 6-week course of really digging deep into it. So at that point, I was like, I need to figure out who the HEW hockey sticks I really am and what I really want. And as I started to do that and realize I always wanted to be a teacher growing up, but I never went forward with it. And I was like, I want to teach other women to not lose 10 years of their lives trying to figure out what the heck makes you happy, right? Yeah. And having, self-care is part of that, like taking care of ourselves, but it's not just the bubble baths. It's, the discipline about taking care of yourself, filling your cup up with whatever the journey is, whether it's, being a teacher to school or being an attorney or whatever that might be for them. How do you do that? Where do you find a discipline to be like, I need to fill my cup too? And I love that you're like, I found my bigger calling. I found what I really happiness, and to pay it forward and teach that is so, so powerful. And so I guess my next question would be to you is like, as you were on this journey of realizing this is something bigger, you want it. What was the biggest thing that you the biggest obstacle that was in that way for you to overcome? I mean, was there I could just, in my head, I'm thinking, were there somebody that was like, well, you're an attorney, you're a great attorney. Why are you giving that up? Right. Were there people that doubted you, what you wanted to do as you were making the shift in your life?
Well, I think that's such an interesting question because a lot of times when career women or, doesn't even matter what type of career, when you want to stay home to raise kids, people don't necessarily question it. They're like, okay, I can see that. My husband's also a lawyer. So just the logistics would have been a lot. And financially we could make some changes and be totally fine. So, transitioning that way hasn't been as difficult as I may have assumed. But really, growing up, wanting to be a lawyer was very much outside the box. It's not what the people that I knew did. So there wasn't a lot of mentorship. And it was a lot of like, well, if you put your mind to it, I guess she could probably do it. Like she's stubborn enough. She's gritty enough. Like if anybody can do it, Katie can probably do it. And I think the big message for me was I got to be a lawyer. I got to do exactly what I said I would do. And looking back, it's the proof that when you bet on yourself, it's a safe bet. That was the proof for me, right? So I bet on myself when I was 7, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I did all the things to be a lawyer. I had all of the, acquired the tools, acquired the knowledge, acquired everything that I needed to make that happen. Got a great job at a big law firm, doing the coolest stuff. And then I blew it all up and decided not to do that anymore. But what it proved to me was that if I bet on myself, I will win. So the next time I wanted to do something like venture into happiness, I already had the proof. I already knew that if I bet on myself, I could win. And that's really strong. And I think reminding people of that by looking at your past life, like looking at what you have gone through and being reminded of, have you ever done what you said you were going to do? Do you break promises to yourself, right? That's where I think a lot of the inspiration and really the grit and the willingness to take a chance, right? And I have a really solid partner who is also like, you've got this. You can do anything you put your mind to. Like, let's go. You want this? You got it. But happiness isn't really about feeling happy. The ancient Greeks will tell you that happiness is the joy that we feel when we're serving our highest potential. Most scientists nowadays.
I want you to say that one more time. I want everybody to hear that one more time.
The ancient Greeks will say that happiness is the joy that we feel while striving for our potential. That's happiness. That doesn't have a lot of emotion, right? The scientists these days, the researchers in the last decade or so, have pretty much come to a conclusion that happiness is part genetics, part circumstances, and part what you can do about it. So, there's still questions as to how much we can change our happiness. Like some people just feel like they woke up on the wrong side of the bed every single day. And we know those people. And maybe it's different for them, but we are about 25 to 40% we can change. We can alter. We can figure this out ourselves if we do the right things, which is part of what my podcast is, little bits of habits to try to create this boost of happiness. But science now is saying that happiness is really a 2-prong test. The first prong is happiness emotions. These are the joy, contentment, love, other positive feelings, right? In her book in 2007, a researcher who does a lot of this work, Sonia Lubomirsky, she describes happiness as the experience of joy, contentment, or positive well-being combined with a sense that one's life is good, meaningful, and worthwhile. And that gives us a clue into the second prong, which is purpose and satisfaction. And that's where I live. I don't live in the let me happy you up. I can't do that for you. That's from within. That's not what I'm about. I can't help you with that. And I don't typically attract sad people. I attract happy people that like to be a little happier. And so purpose and satisfaction is where all the magic is. Purpose is how you feel when you are doing the thing you love. So this can be academic research. This can be scientific research. This can be an endeavor. This can be a small business. This can be writing a book. This can be playing with your kids. This can be being involved in your community, philanthropy, purpose. It can be whatever you want it to be. I wasn't feeling a strong sense of purpose when I was a lawyer. I was missing that piece, right? A lot of people that are working sometimes miss that piece. And the second part of prong 2, if you're following me, we have prong 1 and prong 2. Prong 2 has its own 2 parts, right? Purpose and satisfaction. Purpose we just mentioned. Satisfaction is what you appreciate you have more than pining for what you want. So it's almost like an equation. Satisfaction is what you have divided by what you want. When your wants are too big and you're not focusing on the haves, the equation doesn't work. So it's focusing on the haves. And it's not a function of what you have, right? You can't just say, I'm so grateful for all the things that I have. It's an equation. You have to have more, focus more on your haves than you focus on your wants, right? If your bucket list is so long that you can't see what's right in front of you, the equation doesn't work. And that is how you get fulfilled happiness. That's how you live in a life of happiness every single day. And there's tools and tips and tricks and habits and inspiration and all the things that feed into this. But that's what we do on the podcast. What is happiness? How do we achieve more of it?
Right. Because so many people, like you said, they think it's what they want. And really, have you done an inventory of what you have? And are you happy with where you're at with what you have? Right. It's so, I grew up in a house where my parents had, we didn't have a lot of love around because my dad was just a very unhappy person. And I chose to be happy. I chose every day. I could have, like you said, I could have gone down the path like, oh, my parents my parents have divorced and my mom is still sitting in that same spot of when they divorced and unhappiness. And I said to her, I said, this is your choice. And when you're around me, I can't have that. That energy does not fulfill me, So I had to share with her that when we're together, I need you to work on being happy that we're together, not being unhappy with what you don't have. Right. And I mean, I love that you put it that way because oftentimes people are like, oh, well, my neighbor has that nice car. No. Does your car get you to work? Is it good? I just had this conversation with a client the other day. She's like in this process of changing her life. And there was a conversation around, do I get the car now because he's offering to help me? I'm like, but when you take this path you're about to take, is it going to be something that you can afford? And if it's not, you're not going to be happy, right? It's going to be miserable because you'll be like, I'm stuck. So I love that equation of looking at, what you have and that if the bucket list is too big, I just love that. It's such a powerful thing.
Yeah, well, there's this scientific principle called the hedonic adaptation, also called the hedonic treadmill. It's this idea that you can never be happy with what you want. So I want a new car. I get the new car. It smells like the new car smell, right? For a week. Then it's just your car. You've gone back to baseline. You've gone back to, okay, now what's next? It's when you want the promotion and the job or the new job or whatever, the raise or the bonus, and you get it and you're excited, but it doesn't feel as good as you think it's going to, right? Your mind plays tricks on you. You think it's going to be better than it is. And you're back to baseline. Now you just want the next promotion. You just want more. You always want more. And
yeah, I love that.
That is a scientific principle about how we humans go through the world. So what do we have to do about that? What do we do about that? How do we slow down that treadmill? How do we stop that treadmill? How do we not want for all the things we want? We all want stuff. Like we just do. We just want stuff.
Right.
I mean, we look at Amazon and we look out the window. We all want stuff.
I love that. And one of the best compliments I got from my oldest son is like, he'll watch me, go through my day and he's like, Mom, you're always smiling. And like, I know sometimes it's been a rough day or things haven't gone the way you want. He goes, but you're always happy through it. I'm like, because I choose to be happy. I choose that no matter what. Like I get up every morning and I say to myself, I am beautifully and wonderfully made. I deserve everything that's about to come to me today, good, bad, or indifferent, because there's a lesson to learn from everything. So I know things may not be the best in the world for the day, but I'm alive. I'm enjoying life. I'm learning the lesson from whatever's happening around me. Right. And so I think, like you said, the science and everything, some people just, that's how they live their life, being unhappy. And I also totally am on the path of there's also a choice. We can let those circumstances. We tried to do the inner child book with our group, and they couldn't get past the fact that they kept thinking, well, when I was little, I had a great life. No, it's not about when you were little. It's about what is that inner child telling you today that's keeping you from moving forward to what you want, or keeping you from being happy. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, I love that that's a choice. Oh my God, we could go on like this forever. I just love this conversation. I can't believe our time's flying by. Excuse me. So I have another question for you. I wanted to know, so you're on this great path. You've got all these great things happening. What dreams do you have upcoming? Like what is something you want to accomplish that you know it's there? Where are you at on that? And what is that?
Oh, I do. I do have a big dream that I have been chewing on lately. So I will spill the tea. I am creating these note cards called kindness cards. We all know that kindness is contagious. And I think right now it's, spring 2022. And let's face it, we could all use a little bit more kindness in the world. I think we're all feeling that as a collective human race. And so I'm creating kindness cards and postcards and in greeting cards that I hope get distributed all around the world that share a note of kindness. So the idea is simple. Kindness is contagious. When you do this, when you write a note to someone, even a postcard, which is so simple, right? You get a boost of happiness scientifically. When that person receives it, they get a boost of happiness. They can't help themselves. They're not going to turn around and kick their dog. They're going to smile. They're going to be happy. It's just the way it is. And that card would have traveled through other means, like the postman, the person at the post office sorting the mail. People are going to see it and they will get a boost of happiness. You're going to tell someone about this note card you got in the mail. And that person that's receiving this conversation is also going to get a boost of happiness. That's how this works. Kindness is contagious. So I have a goal to sell and distribute 10,000 postcards in 10 countries this year. Now, the postcards won't be available yet until probably April. We're still working on the logistics. I am a one-woman show over here, but it is on my heart and in my passion wheelhouse. And I could not be more excited about sharing kindness. I think the world needs more kindness. And one of the best ways to do it is through writing gratitude and kindness and thank you notes. There's just no better way. So that is what my big thing is right now. 10,000 cards in 10 countries in 2022.
All right. So I love that dream. We're going to be part of that. We're going to help Katie get this started, you guys that are listening. So we're going to make sure as they start dropping, we know. I think it would be cool if we bought a set for here for the US and we found, and I know a great nonprofit that's in Africa that we start sending. I've got some friends in France. So I think we buy a set for here and we buy a set for somebody we know out of the country to really get that started. I love that. So this has been so much fun. So a lot of what I do too, Katie, is around self-care, right? Like that's my jam. I want women to, have that power of saying no to others and yes to themselves, but it's hard. So learning the discipline of incorporating that into their everyday life is really, really important that I want to make sure that women carry forward. So on that note, how do you incorporate self-care in your life and how do you discipline yourself to make sure, you're not, everybody's on 100%. Oh, I do self-care 100%, but how do you discipline yourself to make sure that's incorporated in your daily life?
Yeah, I have two quick thoughts about this. First is boundaries. I believe boundaries actually offer the most flexibility. I think when you know your boundaries, you know where you can be flexible, and that can be really, really beneficial. So I consider setting boundaries part of self-care. It's not taking a bath, but it's understanding what I need and how I know I want to work through my life. But I think my biggest form of self-care is sleep. I get a lot of sleep. Sleep is a very high priority to me, and I prioritize sleep almost above everything else in life. And I think it makes a big, big difference for me because I know what I need. So self-care can look different for everyone, and it doesn't have to be a bubble bath, right? It can be taking a couple deep breaths. It can be, I mean, there's so many things, but you have to know what works for you. For me, 100% is sleep. And I would say for most women, getting enough sleep is a privilege. And I don't think it should be. I think it should just be how we show up in the world. I can't achieve the things that I achieve and go the way that I go all day without getting a good night's sleep. So my self-care is 100% my sleep.
It's so true, because they say that women, especially as we age younger, I say, as we get younger, that we need that, like, at least a good 8 to 10 hours of sleep. So for our hormones and everything. So it's really, really key to try to get that discipline. I love that you do that. That is awesome. So this has been a blast. I've had so much fun having Katie. There's so much more we can talk about. And offline, we're going to talk about a couple of things. So maybe there might be something else you guys will hear from Katie on if all the stars align. But we do this fun thing, Katie, and I've shared this before. And that is, we have these cards, and I introduced you to my friend Carol Gill, and her and a friend of her created these cards called Better Questions, Better Life. And I get nothing on this. I have no affiliate marketing, nothing, no kickback. So if you're listening, go to betterquestionsbetterlife.com. I meditate on these cards. I'll sit up in my office, and if I'm like on a brain fart for anything I'm working on, I'll pull a card out and just kind of work on a card. So we're going to shuffle the cards, and Katie's going to tell us when to stop, and then we're going to discuss the cards she picked. So let's go there. Katie, tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. So Katie's question today is, who can I forgive today?
Who can I forgive today? You know, that's really interesting. So I have this maybe crazy ability, maybe like crazy habit. I don't know where it came from. I've had this forever. I think my parents told this to me when I was young. I never go to sleep angry, and I never go to sleep with anything unsettled. So while I know people that go to sleep with something unsettled, either they're pissed at their husband or their kid or their friend or something's on their mind. I never go to sleep if there's something unsettled, which probably helps me sleep if I think about it. So I don't know that I have anyone that I would forgive if we're talking about the sense of like in my life, right? If I were to like open this up to a broader conversation, there are people, you know, whether they're world leaders that are doing things that don't align with my values or something like that, that I just can't see how they could act the way that they do. There might be an opportunity for forgiveness there, but I don't know that I'm ready for that.
Wow.
So I think that's really interesting.
I love that answer. That's really deep. And I get it, because we're having those conversations in our household right now. So that's really, I love that answer. And I love the reminder to the listeners too, that, you know, to not go to bed. I practice the same thing. I don't go to bed angry. I don't, you know, make sure that I'm going to bed with a happy heart and wake up with a happy heart. You know, I think that also leads to that happiness piece, you know, that you're releasing. I do this thing every evening before I go to bed called brain dumping, so that I just write whatever's on my head. It could turn into the to-do list for the next day, whatever that is. I'm really big about that. So I love it. I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. It's been great having you on. I want you to share with everybody. I've got a frog in my throat today, so sorry, everybody. I want you to share with everybody where they can find you on all your social handles. We're going to share it as well with the podcast, but tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, I love to connect on social. I truly believe it is my virtual coffee shop. And if you follow me or send me a DM. You will get me responding to you 100% of the time. Probably 100% of the time. I am at Katie Jeffcoat, my name, KatieJeffcoat. And I'm at Everyday Happiness with Katie, which is my podcast, which is so much fun. Inspirational quotes and just like the best stuff. So you can find me at either one of those places. And my website is katiejeffcoat.com, where you can learn more about all the magic.
Yay. Awesome. I can't wait for everybody to find you. And before we close off, I want to remind all the listeners that we are launching some really fun stuff. So if you want to follow what we're doing, make sure you go to wsliving.com and check out all the fun things we're doing, which also includes our retreat has now opened up, our annual September PJ retreat. So if you're listening and you just want that little getaway to pour into your self-care cup, come join us for our pajama retreat. No makeup. Have a blast. September, we will be at the beaches. So if you want more information, go to wsliving.com. But this podcast is on Spotify. You can also watch it on YouTube for Conversations with Pearl. So as I always say, when we close out, you come into this world as this little oyster. As we open up the oyster, inside is this beautiful pearl. And I hope each and every one of you go out today and find your inner pearl to greatness. Have a great day.
Hello, sunshine.